My experience is that at least 99% of the population has been indoctrinated with a belief that they are fundamentally flawed, that their body is fundamentally bad, broken, and stupid, and that they must do things to be deserving of anything good, and this absolutely includes me.
I don't have enough imagination in my body to understand how someone would feel to know that every time they walk into a room, they are either ridiculed or pitied. I have felt very bad for my mom for not being able to have the body she wants, no matter how hard she tries.
I always felt that it was my fault, that I was doing something wrong, and then I would start eating, and I would gain weight. I've lost probably the weight of 1 or 2 men in my lifetime, and I gained it all back.
If I got upset, I'd go through drive-through and sit in the car, eat my double cheeseburger, and cry the whole time I did it.
There's that guilt as well. It's sort of like, this is your fault, your problem. So on top of all the physical part that's going on, you have these emotional things also.
You know, there's a lot of prejudice that people have, the stereotypes that you're lazy, you're undisciplined, you're stupid, or whatever, and it hurts, and it's wrong.
Tell me about 15-year-old Jonathan and how he viewed obese people. Let's go from here. What had society told him was the way to view obese people?
I am embarrassed to say this. At that time in my life, if I saw a obese person knock over a glass of milk in a restaurant, I would be like, see how stupid and bad and subhuman that thing is? Whereas, you know, if a non-obese human knocked over a glass of milk, the reaction would be totally different. And that is obviously a repugnant mindset that exists in humanity. It's the mindset that a Homo sapien is less than human because of a characteristic.
Fat shaming stigma that is linked with being overweight is very, very present. You know, it's linked with many things, particularly the sense that it's an individual's responsibility and it's their fault.
And you don't go out as much. You're not proud of yourself. You look in the mirror and you're ashamed of what you see. You can't hide from the world because you got things you got to do, but you want to. I'm gonna tell you something, being fat sucks. There's not one good thing about it.
My husband of 41 years, he passed away July the 15th in 2016 from diabetes complication.
And my husband died because we didn't have the truth.
An uncle from diabetes, he had a heart attack. I never knew he was that sick.
Diabetes is not a new disease, but what we've sometimes lose amidst the current epidemic is an awareness of how rare it used to be. Very few people would have gotten diabetes 100 years ago or before.
When I was in medical school, which is a long time ago, when we had a patient who came in with diabetes type 2, we wanted to follow them because there weren't that many of them.
You know, when I came over from New Zealand 20 or so years ago, I really had not seen a very overweight child prior to coming here.
In fact, in the last 2 years, life expectancy in the United States has decreased basically for the first time since the Civil War, primarily owing to obesity-related complications.
I have never seen such a catastrophic health epidemic get so little attention, and we have to get the word out, period.
Diabetes, it is a problem that is getting worse at an exponential rate, and it's cultural, and it's what we eat, and it's how our lifestyle is, and those are things that need to be changed. Understanding that we have more capabilities in us than we ever imagine when we are put in the right position to be able to utilize those capabilities, like that's what I want to talk about. So why am I doing this? Well, I want to know what to eat and why. I want to know how to stop diabetes. I want to know the science behind the optimal diet. I want to understand everything that is holding us back. I need to know about the shame that drives us, because I need to know about my mom's struggle. We need to know how to make our bodies want better food. We need to know how to break the diet industry. We need to know how to escape that which seems inescapable. We need to understand how to turn the tide. We need to know how to feel better, how to live better, how to eat better, how to love better. We need to be better.
While I was growing up, I was obsessed with Superman. And apparently, I had no shame. While I was growing up, there was a real Superman who changed my life. This is my grandpa, Ben. Grandpa was a second-generation American without even a high school education who worked in a factory his whole life so that all 4 of his kids could go on to get master's degrees. He was a real Superman, at least until he was faced with a supervillain, diabetes. As one of the leading causes of amputations, Grandpa's superpowers could only take him so far against this supervillain. I remember sitting out in the hall.
Your grandpa needs you to be strong right now, okay, sweetheart?
Can I go in after the doctor's done? I want to show him my new Superman comic book.
Yes, he would like that. But for now,
Don't let them do it!
I love you. Please stay put.
Don't let them do it! Don't let them take my leg! Don't let them take my leg!
There was my Superman, pale, still, and lifeless, defeated by diabetes. And while Grandpa's light went out, his death lit a fire inside of me, because I came to quickly find out Grandpa's not alone. Did you know 1 in 4 of us are afflicted with diabetes or pre-diabetes?
The day I got the death sentence, the diagnosis, I had diabetes.
I have side pains.
Thyroid problems. I kept getting foot ulcers.
I went home that night and I cried like a baby.
Alzheimer's, bone-chilling cold.
You stand up, you dizzy.
Fatty liver. I kept getting bone infections.
At stage 2 hypertension.
My left foot amputated almost completely.
Of the chronic diseases that are common in the United States and throughout the world, type 2 diabetes is one of the very most preventable, and it appears to be the one that unfortunately is becoming pandemic, and there's no signal that this trend is going to abate.
Now, diabetes reflects the ultimate metabolic meltdown. It's basically the fundamental systems that control blood sugar, this critical fuel for the body, break down.
What is the biggest thing that you think is different about this project than other lifestyle-related films out there?
For one, it's focused. 2, it's actionable. You can take things off a list and go do those. I think it's incredible to be able to have the information to reach an audience and really truly care that they get that information.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Baylor, and today I would like to share a personal story with you about a journey that changed my life and my family's life. I want to show you how the world's greatest researchers, scientists, and doctors have conclusively proven that we can end the diabetes epidemic. And I want to show you how you can permanently increase the quality of your life and prevent diabetes. But let's wind the clock back a little bit. See, I started off as a personal trainer.
I saw you out there in the gym. That was quite the good workout today, Tim.
Oh, I was okay, I guess.
Well, then what's wrong?
Barely a pound lost in over a week.
Okay. Have you been sticking to the 1,400 calories a day like we agreed?
Yes, and getting damn tired of it too.
Well, we both know the only way to lose that weight is fewer calories in and more calories out.
I suppose I can add another 10 minutes to the workout.
That's the spirit, Tim. Those pounds won't stand a chance if you stay focused and just keep pushing it harder, okay? All right.
Despite my best efforts, I remember that Tim continued to push harder and harder, but his diabetes just got worse and worse, and he became less and less motivated. I wondered what happened to Tim, but I didn't wonder for long. See, at that exact same time, I was experiencing a different kind of metabolic problem. As a boy, I was motivated by my big brother. I wanted to grow up with those same big muscles that he had so that people would look up to me too. I tried everything to build myself up. I would eat 6,000 calories a day, every single day. But despite everything I did, I couldn't make the sort of gains that I wanted to. And sadly and ironically, my clients couldn't change their bodies either.
Hey, Gail, that was an excellent workout today. You should be feeling good about yourself right now.
Last week at this time, I weighed 189 pounds. I just weighed myself this morning, and guess what I weigh?
What'd you lose?
Less than 0, Jonathan. I gained a pound.
Listen, it's only a matter of time before you...
Bullshit! I work my ass off, and I have nothing to show for it.
Yes, I know. Struggling to lose or gain weight can be very frustrating, but if you just stick to the program...
I have never had to struggle to gain weight.
Can I tell you a secret?
How are you supposed to lose weight? They tell you to cut calories and starve yourself, and so you do that. And then you lose 20 pounds. So far, so good. But you've starved yourself, and it comes off. And then, you go off the diet because it slows down to almost nothing. And what's the use? And then I start eating food like I've never seen food before. It might take me a year to lose 20 pounds, and it seems like 6 months or less. I put it all back on again, plus another 10 pounds.
I was angry because I could not figure out how do I do this so I get results. I was following everybody else's ideas, programs, information, and none of it worked. So what's wrong with me? How am I so bad? Why am I so broken? Not really helpless though, just angry because I'm doing all this stuff. It should be working, right? And that's where I think a lot of people find themselves shaking their heads.
Anybody can lose weight. Losing it and keeping it off is two different things.
The conventional approach to obesity, calories in, calories out, seems so appealing because we do know that if you eat less and you move more, for a short while, you'll begin to lose weight. That's just a law of physics. But it neglects a fundamental fact, which is that the body fights back against calorie deprivation. We know that after a few days or weeks of a low-calorie diet, hunger increases, but at the same time, metabolism slows down. That's the body pushing back against weight loss. Unless we address that problem, it's going to be a losing battle between mind and metabolism.
I felt an overwhelming sense of complete helplessness. I couldn't do anything to help myself and change my body. And much more importantly, I couldn't help my clients to change their bodies. I wanted to gain weight, and my clients wanted to lose weight, and both of us, we both followed the exact same calories in, calories out guidance that we were given, although we did it in opposite directions, but neither of us could reach our wellness goals.
You struggle to gain weight. You have got to be kidding me. We should all have such a problem. I wish you wouldn't tell me that. It gets me upset.
I'm sorry. I've always wanted to beef up.
What a joke. I can't lose a pound and you can't gain one.
I've been doing everything possible. I've been downing thousands of calories a day, but...
But what? Your problem doesn't affect your health, your opportunities, your love life. Give me a break, Jonathan. And I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to work out on that spin cycle. Consuming less than 1,200 calories a day, it's really exhausting.
I mean, I've been out there with you. You've been sticking to your calorie input. You've been working your butt off, and you have nothing to show for it.
It's demoralizing. No matter what I do, it feels like something's holding me back. I feel like a failure. What's wrong with me?
There's something wrong, Gail, but I don't think it's you. I don't know what it is, but there's something definitely wrong.
My name is Maggie Greenwood Robinson, and I have written over 65 books on the subject. Many of those books are diet books, and I've written 2 books on diabetes. I have a friend who was diagnosed with diabetes in May of 2017. He'd been a yo-yo dieter all his life, and he went to the doctor and was diagnosed with diabetes, and it devastated him.
Because I had seen my older brother lose one leg and 2 fingers off his right hand and have a quadruple bypass. And I thought, my God, is that me? I can't let that happen.
I've seen people with diabetes for years. They're put on one oral medication and they go along. They don't make any changes in their diet too much. A couple years later, all of a sudden, their doctor says, I have to put you on another oral diabetes drug. And so on and on they go. At that point, I've seen them not make changes, and some people have to graduate to insulin. This is a very slippery slope.
You get huge. And I went from that 285 up to 458 pounds in 2 years. So bad that I wasn't even going and buying regular clothes. I was going and getting jogging pants and FUBU jerseys. And I was ashamed of myself every time I looked in the mirror.
What has been so striking to us is that type 2 diabetes is a highly preventable and modifiable disease. We have found that it is very strongly linked to lifestyle factors, and that with relatively straightforward lifestyle modifications, there is a marked reduction in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Frustrated, I then turned to my parents, who are college professors. And after a great conversation, my mom, she said something that really resonated with me and led to a breakthrough in my thinking. She said, Jonathan, you and your clients, you're not suffering from an effort problem. You're all trying really hard. What you have, it sounds a lot more like an information problem. I needed to throw away everything I thought that I understood about metabolism and begin a whole new journey of discovery.
We've had a clash of 2 paradigms. The paradigm that's been dominant for basically a century says that all calories are alike to the body. You just have to eat less and move more. It doesn't matter what you eat less of. You can eat junk food, just eat less of it. Now that's an argument the food industry, of course, loves because they can market all sorts of atrocious quality food and then just point to the public and say it's a matter of personal responsibility. The other paradigm says that the quality of foods we eat alters hormones, metabolism, and even the expression of genes in the body in a way that makes all the difference between whether we have stable weight or we're struggling with weight gain.
See, what Dr. Ludwig and many other brilliant minds at Harvard and the world's other top research and medical institutions have proven is that not only was Jonathan, the personal trainer, dead wrong, but most of us, we've been terribly misinformed about what we believe is the best way to reverse diabetes and enjoy our bodies.
I think that I was raised to believe that if you're overweight, it's because it's your fault and you're making bad choices and you're sitting on the chair during the day eating bonbons and you're not exercising and you're lazy or don't have willpower.
I am pissed that all my life I've been told this lie about this is what it takes to lose weight. And while I've been trying to follow that, I've been ridiculed, I've been abused, I've been suicidal. I've been thought my life is worth nothing. And they lied to me. And my husband died because we didn't have the truth, about what it really takes to live a sane life, to actually lose weight and keep it off without shame, without ridicule, without judgment.
If I've learned anything in this room, because I just talked to 15 people, they were trying to dig themselves out of quicksand by shoveling harder.
Another problem with the calorie in, calorie out model is that it tends to blame people for this failure. If losing weight is simply a matter of eating less, moving more, everyone should be able to do it. And if you can't, there must be something the matter with you, according to this way of thinking. You must lack willpower or discipline. Hunger isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a primal biological signal that your body is crying out for more calories.
I felt like I was just holding on with my teeth and my nails, trying to make it to this goal weight so I could finally start living my life again or eating food again. It felt torturous and honestly, I thought about food all the time because I didn't feel like I could have it when I was on a diet. Constantly trying to exercise my willpower and not thinking about those foods and not caving in and giving in to those foods was so hard and so exhausting and so draining.
And even if you could ignore hunger over the long term, which very few people can, your body has other tricks, such as slowing down metabolism and producing what's called the starvation response. This is a very difficult situation to manage over the short term, let alone for the rest of your life. So our conventional approach doesn't work. In a sense, can't work because it's too difficult to accurately assess calorie balance, and it blames people for this problem. We need a much more sophisticated approach to weight control that will help people succeed over the long term.
Women's self-worth is tied up so much into their looks. If you're fat, then you're not pretty and you're not desirable.
You'd hear things, it's like the way it kept piling on. But I started to think, if this continues, this is the road I'm heading down. And it's difficult to hide your poor self-image.
The act of eating a cookie compared to feeling ashamed for eating a cookie, I would say, very clearly probably the latter, because it reflects probably a history of interactions with that and with others, and it will determine what they do going forward as well.
I don't think there's a worse feeling than putting weight back on and then having to go see people that you haven't seen in a while and you're fatter than you were the last time and you feel like, oh no, what do I wear? How do I look better? Are they gonna think she's just like everybody else? She can't do it. It's just a horrible feeling and I hate it.
You know, sitting on the airplane and I'm squeezing my knees together constantly, just trying not to have my legs touch the people on either side of me.
I know every excuse you can make for being ashamed of yourself and being alone and being depressed, overweight.
I think there's no place for shame. It is not a productive way to bring about behavior change. It's never a good approach.
Shame is about just an inherent gut level, I'm no good, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, and that feeling is not motivating because that feeling is just so outrageously debilitating. It just, you've got nothing to go from because you feel like nothing. And that's, I don't think that's ever helpful.
My dad tried to shame me into it. He said, you're a fat boy, do something about it. You can tell me I'm fat. You can shame me in front of other people. You think that's going to inspire me? No.
And because of this discrimination, most victims of diabetes have a long history of attempting unsustainable treatment plans and dangerous diets, causing endless cycles of guilt, shame, low self-esteem, depression, and just worsening and worsening conditions of diabetes and their metabolic issues. But there is hope. There is tremendous hope, in fact. And it begins with understanding the science of the underlying problem and creating a proven, practical, and complete solution to solving it. See, back in the 1980s, seeking to understand why sustained weight loss was becoming increasingly out of reach for so many people, a group of research scientists developed what is now widely referred to as the set point theory. Considered a major scientific breakthrough in the fight to combat diabetes, the set point theory demonstrates why traditional restrictive dieting leaves 29 out of 30 people worse off.
Thinking about body weight as calories in, calories out misses the story. Let's take an example. Let's think about fever. Now, 100 years ago, the biological origins of fever weren't known. They could take temperature. So imagine you went to your doctor with a fever and your doctor said, okay, your temperature's too high. This is really just a question of heat balance. Too much heat going into your body, not enough heat coming out. So it's simple. We just need to reverse that. Get into an ice bath and you'll draw heat out of your body and the problem will be solved. But what would happen? Your body would fight back in predictable ways. Severe shivering, blood vessel constriction, and you'd feel an overwhelming desire to get out of that ice bath. So for that reason, ice baths aren't very popular treatments to fever today. We have a more effective approach. You identify the source of the fever and treat it, or use aspirin. What aspirin does is it lowers the body temperature set point. And you take it, your body goes from wanting to be 104 degrees to being 98.6. So over the next half hour or so, you naturally throw off your blankets, you start sweating, and your temperature declines naturally. Identify the source of the problems, reverse them, so that we can lower the body weight set point. And once we do that, hunger naturally declines, metabolism speeds up, and you lose weight with your body's cooperation, not with your body kicking and screaming.
I can remember when I first read that word, set point. At the time, I had no idea how the modern science proving the set point would elegantly bring all my research together and help to end diabetes.
I can remember books written about set point over 20 years ago. So it was interesting to me that set point was coming up in a new context, because 20 years ago, it was more of a theory.
Hey man, wanted to get you on here to clarify a few things. Set point, that's a theory that's been around for a while. What has changed?
It's not a theory anymore.
Good answer.
The beauty of the set point is it is really one of the most scientifically proven biological concepts in the world. Any of us who took high school biology heard of a term homeostasis. And homeostasis just means that living organisms can only live within a fixed range. Each body, not just human, but each species is like its own little world, its own little ecosystem. And it has to maintain a range for its life to continue. So your body temperature set point is 98.6 degrees. Your blood sugar also revolves around a set point. Your blood sugar goes up, your body takes steps to bring it down. If it goes down, your body takes steps to bring it back up. Your blood pressure also has a set point. Even your hydration has a set point. If you don't drink water for a while, you get thirsty, you drink more. You drink a lot of water, then you drink less water. Your body is always beautifully balancing itself out automatically to maintain life.
Set point, for our purposes, refers to the level of blood sugar and stored fat your body works to maintain by subconsciously regulating your appetite and metabolism through your brain, gut, and hormones, regardless of the quantity of calories you take in or exercise off.
So for example, if it's ever felt like no matter what you do or what you try, it feels like there's an invisible force that's working to keep you at a specific weight, that's your set point weight. That's your brain, your hormones, and your gut all working together to keep your weight at this specific range, regardless of how little you eat or how much you exercise.
So that's a regulatory system that keeps things within a narrow range.
It's a place our body wants to be. And the science now tells us we can change our set point. We can lower our set point and we can keep it there. And that's how we stay naturally thin.
I still needed to understand the deeper science though, and how all the brain, the gut, and the hormones all work together to affect the set point. So what is triggering our set point to rise?
Research over 50 or even 100 years suggests that the quality of the foods we eat can play a fundamental role. That by altering the way that blood sugar and hormones change after we eat, we can change how fat cells behave, how many calories they store versus how many calories go to the muscle and the other organs of the body to be burned. Once you make that change, set point can decrease. And once set point decreases, then hunger and metabolism naturally adapt without the struggle, without requiring willpower.
Your set point is determined by the interaction of your brain, gut, and hormones.
Let's talk about the brain. How important is the brain to lowering your set point?
The brain is one of the three critical factors that are determining whether or not your set point is going up or it's going down.
I learned about a small but crucial part of your brain that's called the hypothalamus. It is essentially the link between your head, your hormones, and your stomach. It's an almond-sized structure that serves a very vital role. The automatic regulation of life-sustaining bodily functions, such as balancing blood sugar and body fat levels within a healthy range. However, if your hypothalamus becomes inflamed, the range it works to automatically keep your blood sugar and your body weight within goes up, and you become diabetes.
So the brain controls metabolism and hunger as well, but it in turn is influenced by many factors in our diet, in our environment, beyond what we eat, levels of sleep, stress, physical activity, all get integrated into the brain to determine, in effect, our set point at that particular point in our life. Some key factors, as we've discussed, are the amount of protein, fat, and carbohydrate in the diet. Types of fat are also important, especially polyunsaturated fats, like omega-3 fatty acids. These play a critical role in calming down inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the brain, and especially the hypothalamus, can produce biological dysfunction, can cause insulin resistance, leptin resistance, that leads to weight gain, and that adversely affects metabolism.
The fat tissue, the adipose tissue, is a major source of producing inflammatory molecules. So people who have excess adipose tissue often have a high inflammatory state, and that is itself a risk factor for insulin resistance and developing type 2 diabetes.
The effects are astounding as they almost block your brain's ability to healthfully regulate hunger and lead to a decrease in willpower and an increase in cravings. And not only does an inflamed hypothalamus leave you feeling unsatisfied, it also creates intense cravings by interfering with your levels of dopamine, serotonin, and brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor, or BDNF. When these substances are imbalanced, your brain remains chronically heightened in a stimulus-seeking mode. And the takeaway here is that we have scientific proof now why sticking to traditional starvation-based treatment plans and deprivation diets are so difficult and ineffective. Brain inflammation is sabotaging your efforts. Again, it's not an effort or character problem. It's a medical problem of brain inflammation. It was clear that the catastrophic rise in diabetes was due to a direct attack on our body's ability to maintain a healthy set point.
Weight gain is the price you pay for not getting diabetes on a poor quality diet. As long as you can store excess calories safely in fat, the body can do relatively fine without developing diabetes. It's when those fat cells reach their tipping point, which comes at a higher level for some people, a relatively lower level of body weight for other people. When those fat cells reach their tipping point, they can no longer safely store the calorie excess. So they spill into what's called ectopic fat. Fat gets stored in places it shouldn't, like the liver, in the pancreas, in the muscles, and even in the bloodstream, called triglycerides. In addition, fat cells beyond their tipping point become inflamed and spew inflammatory chemicals throughout the body that can lead to inflammation in the brain that accelerates this process.
Many hundreds of thousands of other people, we can't let it go. It is an addiction. It's a disease. Obesity is a disease. Diabetes is a disease. And it needs to be treated like a disease, not a shameful moral issue. And the people that suffer from it should be treated with love and compassion.
So the conventional view will recognize that biology is important, but then comes back to willpower because they lack a good explanation for what's changed. So they say, well, all of these delicious foods are causing people to overeat. But that's not really a satisfactory explanation.
You develop cravings for certain foods, and I didn't realize that it's the foods you're eating that gives you the cravings for the foods, and that there's a way to eat that takes away those cravings. If I had known that, I could have changed Larry's diet and he wouldn't have craved those so much. Back in the 90s when we first got together, you don't think of the future that much. It's not until later that things start going wrong that you start taking it seriously.
Gut is one of the most underappreciated things when it comes to long-term metabolic healing and avoiding diabetes, because you have trillions and trillions of little microbes and bacteria that are going to influence every other element of your life. I'm talking your cravings, I'm talking how much you eat. So what you eat and how much you eat is in large part not a function of willpower or even your preferences. It has to do with the organisms that live in your gut and what they want to eat.
The gut has been referred to by many people as a second brain because it has more neurotransmitters coming from the gut than from our brains. And this has a tremendous impact on our body health, our brain health, as well as our cognitive health.
So the gut microbiome are the microbes that live in the intestinal tract and play an important role in not just body weight regulation, but general health. We have to think in terms of prebiotics, probiotics, and polyphenols. So prebiotics are things like fiber that we don't directly digest. It enters into the colon and it serves to stimulate growth of healthy bacteria. Probiotics are those healthy bacteria themselves. We can get them from real fermented foods like yogurt, or we can take probiotic supplements. Traditional cultures would have eaten lots of naturally fermented foods. Sauerkraut, all sorts of pickled dishes would be regular parts of traditional cuisines. Having a healthy gut microbiome, high quality diet feeds those good bacteria, but also can calm inflammation throughout the body, plays a critical role in affecting the brain and helping the body to achieve a healthy body weight.
Someone might say, I am craving sweets right now, but the thing that may actually be craving sweets are a certain form of bacteria living in your gut. So you are not actually craving sweets. Those are not your cravings. And when you understand that, and you understand that you can change the bacteria of your gut, which you can, and as much as you may be driven right now to eat processed substances that make you sick, you could be driven to crave healthy whole foods that make you happy and energetic.
I think we're beginning to understand that the kind of quality food that we have is important for our gut and then have an impact on our body health and our brain. We know that sugar and high glucose containing foods has a tremendous impact on our microbiome, which then sends signals to all parts of the body, all parts of the brain, that indirectly lead to an increase in inflammation.
So the big takeaway here is that if you want to enlist billions of microscopic set point lowering bacterial minions into your campaign against diabetes, please do not starve yourself, and please do not eat pre-packaged processed diet food, because both of those tactics kill the little guys you need on your side, and or they feed the bacteria, which increases your set point and also your risk of diabetes. Instead of doing that, eat so much set point lowering, high quality foods found directly in nature that you're too full for the low quality processed junk. This feeds the billions of set point lowering bacteria that come to your defense against diabetes.
Okay, I really feel like I'm understanding brain and gut on a way better level, but that leaves hormones. How do those affect our set point?
Hormones have a huge impact on what your body does with food after you eat it.
You can't hear it, you can't see it, but there's a whole lot of chit chat going on inside you all the time. Your gut, your organs, your muscle tissues, and your fat tissue are constantly communicating with your nervous system and your brain via these chemical messengers called hormones. But what are they talking about? One example is how much fuel they figure you'll need in order to keep your level of body fat stable where it's at right now, AKA your body weight set point. If your hormones feel that you're at risk of your weight falling below your set point, they will relay chemical messages to drive your appetite and cravings up and your daily calorie burn down. And let's just say, when you eat mostly high quality food, this conversation goes well. Higher quality calories, or what we call sane calories, trigger your fat burning hormones and the desired message is sent.
So what you're telling me is when it's working properly, the hormonal system is telling the body to burn the fat and use that as energy, right?
Your hormones are what determine at any point in time whether or not you're storing or burning fat. You could eat 6,000 calories in a day and be burning those calories, or you could eat 600 calories in a day and be storing those calories. That's all determined by your hormones, not by your willpower.
However, when you eat low quality, over-processed food products, it's like those lines of communication, they start to break down.
But when the body is supplied with low quality food, that same hormonal system does the exact opposite, right? It not only is it storing fat, but it's also telling the body that it's starving. It's like installing a smoke alarm that shoots gasoline on the fire, right?
That's a funny analogy, yes. This condition you described is called internal starvation, and one's hormones can get so clogged, as we sometimes refer to them, or out of balance. All the calories you eat are preferentially shuttled into your fat cells, and they're locked away, so they can't be used for energy. So you can eat as much as you want, and your body still does not have access to those calories to burn. It's actually impossible for your body to burn them. All it's doing is storing them. So you're unfortunately getting fatter while starving simultaneously.
That's incredible.
To illustrate this, I like to use the analogy of a clogged sink.
When a sink is working properly, more water poured in means more water will drain out. The water level may rise temporarily, but the sink will automatically take care of it. The sink is balancing water in and water out at a low level.
One of my aha moments was understanding the concept of hormonal clogs. My eyes got opened when I saw that once we get rid of those clogs, our set point lowers, and we do really become like a naturally thin person.
Simply considering calorie balance misses all of the biology that's happening inside the body that determines whether or not we're hungry, whether or not our metabolism is speeding up or slowing down, whether or not we're storing fat or building lean muscle. We now know that there are dozens of hormones and other biological signals that play a role. There are a few dominant players. One is insulin, because insulin directs the storage or burning of calories after we eat. And that is a critical determinant of how hungry we get soon after a meal. For example, just giving rats moderate doses of insulin on a daily basis will cause a shift in metabolism toward more fat storage. Over time, that animal is going to start eating more, gaining weight. If you then cut back calories, you put that rat on a diet, you can prevent weight gain, but that animal still has too much fat. That insulin has caused excess fat storage at the expense of lean body tissue and muscle.
Jonathan, I keep reading the science, going over everything that we've been talking about, and it's clear and resolute and beautiful, and like it makes so much sense. And then I look outside, and then I look at the statistics, and like, what do?
We need people to understand deeply, like, to feel how severe of an epidemic this is.
We are getting very close to diabetes being 10% of the global population over the next few decades.
Diabesity is the largest health epidemic in human history, and if we don't take action, it will cause the unthinkable.
In 2005, I collaborated with some demographers and other experts in life expectancy. And we predicted in an article in the New England Journal of Medicine that life expectancy would begin to decline by mid-century if we didn't do something about the obesity epidemic. And I'm sorry to say that this is one prediction that has come true sooner than expected. If we don't do something about it, this generation of children will lead shorter, less healthful lives than their parents. And beyond the human toll, obesity, diabetes are going to have a devastating impact on our economy, our international competitiveness. You know, it's really a question of national security.
A 2015 study showed that in the United States, the medical costs of just type 2 diabetes are $50 billion greater than all smoking and tobacco-related medical costs. Globally, diabetes is costing us about $2.6 trillion every single year.
In the US today, approximately 1 in 5 children have obesity. Even in preschoolers these days, about 14% of preschoolers are classified as having obesity. And these numbers have been increasing over time. And infants, we now see high rates in infants as well.
1 in 3 children born today are predicted to get diabetes at some point in their life. Research from my group and many others around the country, around the world, suggests that the worst players now are the processed carbohydrate. Not just sugar, but refined grains, potato products, anything that breaks down into sugar quickly. The technical term for that is high glycemic index.
Sodas are poison. Like, if you wouldn't feed it to your dog, don't feed it to your kid. And you would never give your dog a soda.
The first thing I would say to a patient when they ask me about their diet, I say, get rid of everything white except cauliflower in your diet, because white usually signifies starch or sugar.
Brain scans on study subjects 4 hours after eating 2 different milkshakes, one that was low in sugary carbs and another that was high in sugary carbs, showed these same areas of the brain lighting up in the subjects who ate the high sugary carb milkshake as we see in people who use heroin and cocaine. And please remember that all non-fiber carbohydrates break down into sugar. Dr. David Ludwig made this very clear.
All carbohydrates break down into sugar, ultimately. But when grains are highly processed, as they are in so many of the low-fat, high-carbohydrate food products today, that process happens literally in minutes after eating. So after having a bowl of cornflakes, blood sugar rises very rapidly for 10 or 15 minutes, insulin surges, and a few hours later, blood sugar crashes, you get hungry and tend to overeat. So from this perspective, you can have a bowl of cornflakes with no added sugar, or a bowl of sugar with no added cornflakes. Below the neck, they're gonna do the same thing.
So, but we have to have carbohydrates, right?
You don't have to have starch or sugar.
Human requirement for carbohydrate is actually 0. And that was simply demonstrated by the Inuits or the Laplanders, who spent most of the year where no plants or carbohydrate would be available.
At the same time, hunter-gatherers living in less extreme climates, they survived just fine on lower fat and protein, plant-based diets using meat only as a supplement. But the fact is that without carbohydrate, our body can produce all the fuel needed from protein and fat.
Light bulbs went off in my head. I thought, wow, that's profound. They're not essential. Carbs are not essential. The wrong kinds of carbs particularly are bad for us, and I think that's one of the reasons why America has gotten so much bigger.
And in the absence of carbohydrate, insulin secretion plummets, and the body switches from using glucose for energy to using stored body fat as its main source of energy. Now, obviously, burning fat as fuel is essential to reversing diabetes.
Back in the 1960s, we ate more than 40% of our calories in fat. But because of concern for saturated fat, which quickly generalized to all fat, the public got the message year after year to cut back on fat. So now we're down to about 30%. Carbohydrate increased. The obesity epidemic unfolded during those years. Things like olive oil, nuts, avocado, dark chocolate. They don't raise insulin essentially at all. The calories take longer to digest, and they stay in our blood circulation longer. You don't have the same surge and crash in blood sugar and in hormones on a higher fat, lower carbohydrate meal compared to the typical processed carbohydrates we're eating so much of today. All low-fat foods aren't a problem. Apples have very little fat, but aren't driving the obesity epidemic. It was a combination of having the wrong science, focused obsessively on reducing all fats, including many very healthful ones, and a partnership with the food industry that endorsed highly processed, high-calorie, low-quality junk foods. So we got products like the fat-free Snackwells and the low-fat Twinkies advertised as health foods, when they're really nothing different than an oral glucose tolerance test.
So can we say that the low-fat craze was a failure?
The low-fat craze was the most deadly and horrific failed dietary experiment we've ever done.
Wow.
Diabetes is the terrible epidemic, the greatest health crisis that has ever faced our world. Diabetes is caused by an elevated set point. An elevated set point is caused by neurological inflammation, hormonal imbalances, and digestive dysbiosis. Those things are caused by insane foods. Sane foods solve the problem.
My quest had reached another challenge, another opportunity to define the terms of our battle against diabetes and to provide a conclusive measuring stick to determine the quality of anything that you can eat or drink.
If you ask 10 people on the street, what's a high quality food? You get 10 different answers. When you ask 10 different people, is a banana high quality? Someone might say yes, someone might say no, someone might say, is it organic? Someone might say, well, did you buy it at Whole Foods? So you're gonna get 10 different answers, right?
My thesis was that I needed to approach this problem like an engineer approaches designing an airplane, because a commercial airplane can't be hacked together or be based on personal anecdotes of what that really fit guy in the gym told me. We don't look to gurus to give us their opinion on how to enable hundreds of people to safely fly from New York to Los Angeles. An airplane cannot work most of the time or be safe for some people. It must work every time, always, in every situation, for everyone. And the only way to do this is to embrace modern science that has been proven by people who have devoted their entire lives to that science. And I knew in my heart that there had to be an ironclad way to determine the objective quality of every single food in existence. I have one word, or rather, it's an acronym. It's SANE.
It was very important, after all that I've been through, of this calorie in, calorie out model versus the SANE model of the way that the body actually works. It was very important to me because, number one, it told me that I didn't fail.
Now, when I'm hungry, instead of me like trying to hold on until the next appropriate time to have a meal, if I'm hungry, I eat. And I eat great food, and it tastes amazing, and it fills me up, and it makes me satisfied. And so I'm eating, delicious proteins and healthy vegetables and delicious fruit and nuts, and I've embraced fat in a way that I always thought was really bad. I don't feel guilty about whole milk Greek yogurt.
It's been eye-opening for me. It's been a learning process, and I tell everybody in the world that SANE saved my life, period.
SANE is a concrete and scientifically proven way to measure and evaluate the quality of any and every food.
The S stands for satiety, the A stands for aggression, the N stands for nutrition, and the E stands for efficiency. Thousands of studies have shown that we need all four of these objective measures to determine food and calories quality. The first of these is satiety. Satiety is how quickly calories fill you up and how long they keep you full. If there is one word in food science that can transform your life, it is satiety.
Many things affect satiety, or that sense of fullness we have after a meal. And beyond satiety, food can also affect our metabolism, how warm we are, how energetic we are, how likely we are to be to get off the couch and exercise. And all of these are relevant to weight control over the long term.
More water and more fiber means bigger food, more stretch, and getting fuller and feeling fuller longer. Foods high in water include non-starchy vegetables, low fructose fruits, and, surprise, nutrient-dense protein. These help to literally fill you up. Noted researchers Barbara Rolls at Pennsylvania State University and Adam Drewanowski at the University of Washington have both referred to water in food as the secret ingredient to satiety. And now dietary fiber is another secret ingredient, because unlike other food components such as fats and proteins or carbohydrate, fiber can't be digested by your body. And also, the amount of protein in food is quite critical. Harvard researchers have found that protein affects the other two factors that influence your stop eating and stay full signals, those short-term and long-term satiety hormones. More calories from protein means more full hormonal signals are being sent to your brain now and later. Studies have shown that eating higher satiety, water, fiber, and protein-rich foods can cause you to unconsciously and effortlessly feel completely full and satisfied with up to 1,000 fewer calories per day. You unconsciously put fewer calories through your lips because your body is already eating calories off your hips.
It didn't seem to be possible for my body to tell me it was full before with eating starchy foods. There's no end to that, it seems. You can eat a whole full bag of potato chips in one sitting and not realize, hey, I'm at the bottom of a bag of potato chips. You know, it's not satiating.
For example, Pringles advertises, once you pop, you can't stop. They're saying that these calories have low satiety. They're celebrating that these calories have low satiety. You eat them and they make you hungrier.
In thinking about satiety, you want to not just focus on one substance, one factor, one food, but get the right combination. It's sort of like a car engine. It doesn't run just on gasoline or just on air. You want to get that right mixture. And when you do, you get a really efficient engine. So for humans, getting the right amount of protein, plenty of healthful fats,
having nuts and unsaturated fats as opposed to saturated or trans fats have been linked to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes.
And carbohydrates in their least processed state possible, slow digesting, natural, something that grandparents would have recognized.
Now let's talk about what makes calories aggressive. At its most basic level, this is the measure of how quickly these foods or sources of calories flood your body with glucose. Your body, it can handle a sharp spike in blood sugar every once in a while, but constantly elevated glucose levels give your body no choice but to store all that glucose into fat tissue, and this sadly turns your body into a fat-building factory. And the more sugar and starch and less fiber, protein, and fat in the food, the more aggressive it is, and the more likely its calories are to be shuttled into fat storage. So, for example, suppose you sit down to a big old plate of pasta. That's a lot of starch. And along with it, you're served some garlic bread. And then you finish with dessert, a handful of oatmeal raisin cookies. That's a lot more starch and a bunch of sugar. And those calories, they're so aggressive that your body has no choice but to send them straight into fat storage. No detours allowed. And the more aggressive calories are, the faster they increase the level of glucose in your bloodstream, and the faster those calories head to your fat cells.
What we know is that when you look at the anti-aging protocols, in their diet recommendations, they talk about getting rid of the sugar and starches that are so prominent in the American diet and in now the diets around the world, because it causes us to put those excess sugar calories that we take into fat, which then leads to problems with inflammation and eventually seeing a decrease in brain health.
Does the fat in food make it more aggressive? The answer is no. You do not have to worry about the fat in whole foods being aggressive. In fact, eating fat does not increase the amount of glucose in your bloodstream at all. Research has demonstrated time and time again, digesting high-quality fats slows the release of glucose into the bloodstream. And that's why foods containing fat are often less aggressive than fat-free foods. It's also really, really important to note that most of those low-fat products you see advertised are actually way more aggressive than full-fat foods.
Most people don't think that a strand of spaghetti is sugar. but that's what it is. Your body quickly breaks it down. And the whole grain people, even though that's a better choice perhaps because it takes a little longer to break into glucose, it's still broken into glucose, and you still get maybe not a quickest spike, but you still get a lot of glucose in your system.
Many food processors make up for the lack of fat in food by adding sugar. And please, watch out for added sugar because it is nothing short of toxic.
Satiety, aggression, the N is nutrition. This is one that we all think we've been told the whole truth about, but we really haven't, because we have to look at what's called nutritional quality, or the ratio of essential nutrition to non-essential nutrition.
See, when you look at the nutritional breakdown on food labels, you may look at the calorie count and then all the details below it. The only thing that is left for you to unlock is to divide those details by the number of calories. Anything that anybody says to you about nutrition that is not framed in terms of per calorie is at best incomplete and at worst dead wrong, because nutrition refers to the amount of essential substances found in foods such as vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, antioxidants, and phytonutrients. However, the number of calories found in various foods varies wildly, so talking about nutrition in a food without considering the calories within it gives you a very inaccurate view of what's most nourishing for your body. Now, let me give you an example. 1 cup of enriched wheat flour contains 495 calories and the following nutrient breakdown in the format we're all used to seeing. Now compare that to 1 cup of spinach, which contains 7 calories, and we see that cup to cup, it seems like they are about equally nutritious. But you might already be thinking, how is it fair to compare 495 calories worth of flour to 7 calories of spinach? That's like pitting an entire army against a single soldier. And you're exactly right. So let's make this fair and compare calorie to calorie. Specifically, not cup to cup, but 250 calories of that same wheat flour and 250 calories worth of spinach. As you can see, that much spinach delivers over 100% of all those vitamins and minerals. And look, vitamin K is over 6,400%. By comparison, the wheat flour doesn't even get above a measly 37% in any category. So I hope you can see that serving size is a really poor predictor of a food's nutritional content.
For example, taking a bunch of processed nonsense, putting it in a cereal box, marketing it children, and then putting a bunch of artificial vitamins and minerals in it doesn't make it nutritious. Any more than taking a can of soda and dropping a vitamin pill in it makes that soda nutritious. We want to eat foods that have the most essential nutrition and the least non-essential and even toxic and addictive nutrition. Satiety, aggression, nutrition, and then E is efficiency. This is the least well-known factor in the mainstream because carbs, fats, and proteins are all processed very different by your body. Some are more efficiently stored as body fat. Others are literally impossible to store as body fat.
For example, water, fiber, or anything else that your body cannot get calories from is 100% inefficient. That means you could consume it in unlimited quantities and never store any of it as body fat. In the case of water and fiber, you would just use the bathroom a lot. Take celery, for example. It's basically water and fiber and a whole bunch of vitamins and minerals. Celery and dozens of other non-starchy veggies are so inefficiently stored as body fat that it's almost impossible to overeat them. They help to nourish you with a 0% chance of causing diabetes. But we can't eat celery all day. That is where protein comes to our rescue. Protein, like carbohydrate and fat, are known as macronutrients. But here is the revolutionary part. After you eat protein, no energy is available to your body. Protein leaves your stomach as amino acids. Amino acids cannot be burned for energy or stored as fat. They are used to repair or create cells. Only about 1/3 of the protein calories you eat could ever be stored as body fat. This does not mean you should eat a 100% protein diet. That would be very unhealthy. But what it does explain is why studies where people replace fat or replace carbohydrates with protein calories consistently show that the higher protein people, they lose weight while eating the exact same number of calories as the other study participants. And now for carbohydrates and fat, both of these macronutrients, they do provide energy after leaving your stomach, and your body is quite efficient at storing carbohydrate calories as fat. And to be fair, it's very efficient at storing fat calories as body fat.
How much of a starch or sugar can be turned into body fat?
Your body is extremely efficient at storing starch and sugar as body fat.
What about protein? Is that easy to turn into body fat?
Your body can't store protein as body fat. It actually converts it into carbohydrate or glucose before it could even convert it into body fat. So it's impossible to store protein as body fat.
Okay, so does eating fat make you fat?
Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Eating more of the right fats is one of the keys to lowering your set point.
So when you put this all together, it's clear why eating so much satisfying, unaggressive, nutritious, and inefficient food makes you too full for the low-quality processed food and therefore lowers your set point. Because by filling yourself with so much good that you are too full for bad, you enable your body to heal your brain, gut, and hormones, which drives your set point and your risk for diabetes down.
So satiety, aggression, nutrition, and efficiency, the acronym SANE, gives us an objective, scientifically proven criteria by which we can tell you definitively non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats, and low fructose fruits in that order are the sanest, highest quality foods in the world. And then you have kind of like moderately sane foods, and then you have insane foods that cause diabetes, that cause an elevated set point. Those are things like processed starches, processed sugars, and processed fats.
I love losing weight, and I love what I eat. It's enjoyable, and I don't get hungry. I don't miss carbs, I don't miss fruit, I don't miss French fries. Potatoes are my favorite food in the world. I don't miss those anymore, or bread, or pastas, or any of that stuff. And I tell everybody I know, you don't need carbs in your life. If you want meat, sooner you can get it from the butcher before it's processed. That's what you want. Like I said, I haven't suffered, I haven't been hungry, and I have not once felt like I was giving anything up.
Half of your plate full of vegetables, multicolored, non-starchy vegetables. Greens, purples, reds, yellows, orange, etc. Half of your plate, good vegetables, and then about a third of it, good quality protein. So if that's the best ground beef, 80% lean that Walmart has, go for it. Just have more good vegetables than anything else. And if that's the only thing you change for the next 8 weeks is just how do I get in more good non-starchy vegetables, make that your only change, you're gonna be winning.
There is no more therapeutic food in the world than non-starchy vegetables. So what are the absolute best non-starchy veggies? Optimal choices are deep green and leafy. And things like being organic, that's great, but it is not at all required. The key is eating as many of these veggies as possible, so do whatever works for you to make eating a lot of these every day something that you enjoy. Frozen is great, conventional is great. In fact, many even come in powder form, requiring no refrigeration, which you can eat on the go or in smoothies. You can choose other excellent non-starchy vegetables by asking yourself 2 questions. Do they grow above ground? And can they be eaten raw? If so, you're very likely looking at a food that is sane and will help you lower your set point. The second most important habit for lowering your set point is to enjoy 3 to 6 servings of nutrient-dense proteins along with your non-starchy vegetables. Humanely and sustainably raised proteins are recommended in part because they tend to be higher in nutrition and free of hormones and other additives. Optimal choices contain the most usable forms of protein along with the most essential vitamins, minerals, and omega fatty acids. You want to make sure that you're getting most of your energy and calories from whole food fats in place of starches and sweets. These are nutrient-dense whole foods you find directly in nature that get most of their calories from healthy fats. Low fructose fruits can be an important part of a set point lowering sane diet, but a crucial thing to be aware of is that in most cases, any benefit that you can get from a low fructose fruit, you can get from a non-starchy vegetable, but with about 10 to 20 times less sugar.
Once I tapped into the science of eating right and cutting out what your body is not meant to, which is, primarily everything that they're, throwing at you, I saw some progress. Progress is encouraging.
I will say that by changing my eating to eating fresh, whole foods, delicious proteins, healthy fats, food that tastes amazing, not being hungry, being able to eat whenever I felt hungry, not having to be hangry, finding this new way of eating, which eliminated my cravings. I think that's, in the past, other diets or things that I tried, I could have refined carbs and sugars in moderation, and moderation just doesn't work for me. Once I got rid of those things and I was no longer craving them, I'm not fighting my willpower anymore, and that makes it feel easy. I found a way by changing the types of foods that I'm eating. Once it became my normal, my new normal, and that's a term that I started to embrace. I felt like I was just living my life and the pounds were melting away. Life was getting better. I would put on a pair of pants and complain to my husband that they're getting too big. I'm gonna have to go shopping for new pants. And that had never happened in my life before.
You have the opportunity to change. You have the opportunity to affect your future.
Because the world, in my experience, is not set up to put us on a path of quality at all. But we have to choose that.
Freedom is not a diet mindset. So I live in freedom. I don't follow a diet, period. I never will. You couldn't pay me money to follow a diet because diets don't work. It's creating a lifestyle, creating a way of eating. And if you think about it, if you look back 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, nobody followed diets, they just ate.
A diet is a thing in most people's minds that is a temporary thing, that you are trying to go on to fix a problem, to like reset the gauge, and I don't think of it that way. And when you're talking about, say, nutrient-dense proteins, you can work a lot of things into that because that's something that separates a lot of people. So when you have omnivores versus vegetarians versus vegans, there are a lot of ways to go about that.
There's all sorts of nutrient-dense plant proteins. Pea protein is an incredibly nutrient-dense protein. In fact, it's higher in an amino acid arginine than almost all animal sources. It's beautiful, it's incredibly high quality. Hemp protein, incredibly high quality. Rice protein, incredibly high quality protein. And of course, there are also high quality, nutrient-dense animal sources of protein. Salmon is one of my favorite, also mollusks, things like clams, oysters. These are amazingly nutrient-dense sources of protein. And I just get so excited about this because there's like so much.
There's room for everyone, and there's room for every creed and idea and ethics background in that. And that's really enlightening and inclusionary.
A lot of restaurants have options. that you can get if you're willing to modify what they're offering to have it work for you. I can look at the menu and, oh, well, this salad has like tortilla strips and whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna order the salad without tortilla strips. You know, this salad has a dressing on it that has a lot of sugar, so I'm gonna get oil and vinegar instead. Maybe it comes with rice, maybe it comes with potatoes. You just substitute it for some broccoli or some kale or, you know, something fresh.
The beauty of sane eating is that it's not so much about stopping certain things, it's about taking things in your life that are already working, magnifying them and multiplying them. So let me give you an example. If I'm gonna have people over to my house, you ask them what they'd like to eat, then you sanitize the recipe, and what you're gonna see on your plate is some form of delicious protein and vegetables. Those will be on your plate. That's delicious. That's sane eating. So let's get a bunch of colorful, wonderful vegetables. Let's saute them in a decadent sauce. Let's get some grilled fish, some grilled meat. We can have some avocado. We can have some eggs. We can have any type of nut or seed. We can have fruits for dessert. We can use sane whole food fats like cocoa and coconut milk and almond flour and coconut flour to make any dessert, cake, cookie, pie you could imagine. We can put some sane sweeteners in that. So literally, I would ask my guests, I would say, hey, what would you like to eat? Before they even came over, and if they said lasagna, I'd say, fantastic, we're gonna have lasagna. You know what, we're just gonna use eggplant instead of noodles. If they say, hey, I wanna have some beef stroganoff, well, you know what? We'd make beef stroganoff, we would just use zucchini noodles instead of regular noodles. If they said, hey, I wanna have a beautiful stir fry, well, stir-fried meat and fish and vegetables is easy, and then we would either have cauliflower rice or parsnip rice. And then you have a delicious meal that's lowering your set point.
I didn't eat vegetables, or very few, and now I'm eating quite a bit of vegetables.
That's the other thing that I do appreciate about myself is the discipline that I'm able to tap into to be successful.
But no, the science of it, you know, I was gonna be able to cook, go out to a restaurant, eat what I wanna eat, and all I have to do is switch my habits, get rid of some things that are just not good for your body.
I knew that if we did this, that I would probably realize some benefit from it over time.
And it wasn't a lot. I got rid of everything processed.
I definitely got it, probably 6 months into it. So it wasn't anything that happened overnight, but even for me, I started noticing it within 6 months, and everything was delicious.
You don't have to count calories now. You just have to eat the right kind of foods. This way of eating is not about depriving yourself or entering, you know, everything I eat into an app.
The way that we were eating, the way we were cooking, it was great.
So you're talking about your own perspective.
Yeah.
Where you were, and you had ostensibly every advantage someone could have, right? And there are a bunch of people that are born, that we've talked to, with a lot of, like, at least body image disadvantages. And those things affect everything else they're in. Is it fair to say that everyone's perspective of how difficult their journey is equally valid?
There's a quote that says something along the lines of, things are as hard as you decide to make them. For me, I didn't realize for literally 35 years of my life how difficult I was making my life. The definition, at least my understanding of the definition of shame, is consistent with a belief that unless you prove otherwise, you are worthless. And I lived my entire life trying to prove that I wasn't worthless. I remember being in my car, my phone rang, I picked it up, they said, Jonathan, congratulations, you're a New York Times bestselling author. And you know what I did? I said, that's cool. And then I turned left.
in my car. And I was like, really thought that was gonna make a difference, you know? When they said, Jonathan, here's your 25th patent. I was like, well, that's pretty cool, you know? Thought that would fix it. How did I realize that I personally am of the highest quality? I finally gave myself permission to turn inward, not outward, not to say that anyone else needed to do anything, not to say that I needed to do anything externally, but just to say, like, let it go. It's either gonna be fine or you're gonna die. And if you die, it's gonna be fine because you're dead. So it's going to be fine either way. You're okay, like everything's okay. And it's not, once you get that, then you can choose to make it better than okay. That shame of my perceived failure had almost broken me, but it also led to one of the biggest breakthroughs in my career. It led me to understand that I needed to reach out to people in a brand new way. I needed to connect with them on a human level, not just a scientific one. Every action in your life either raises or lowers your set point. It's what I call the unified set point theory. All the research I've seen, all the academic papers I've read prove that there is a set point for almost everything, including happiness, for example. And there is no neutral action when it comes to your set points. It's not just the quality of food you eat, it's the quality of everything that you do. Deprivation and dieting cause diabetes. It's not about quantity, not more exercise quantity or less food quantity. It's about quality. It's about high quality living to create a high quality life. This is the golden ticket. This is what science has gifted us. High quality eating and living will heal your set points, and your healed set points will dramatically reduce your risk for diabetes.
When I started eating better, I started getting low confidence. You know, okay, boom, my girlfriend tells me, hey baby, your gut is going down. It's like literally day 2 or 3, and I'm like, yeah, right? So more than anything, I say put yourself above all. If you eat crap, you're gonna feel like crap.
You know, growing up eating right, you don't think that the life that's gonna be saved by this food one day is yours.
Your body's gonna start looking like crap. In essence, you're gonna think you're crap.
You know, you don't think you're even gonna get to that point where you have to get back on track, where you have to relearn these things, where you have to re-embrace these things.
I didn't think I was worth it. I didn't feel like I deserved her because my body wasn't where I wanted it to be.
I had it handed to me in the beginning and I threw it away. And I'm so, so fortunate to have gotten it back and to have saved my life, you know, and to be able to share this love of food and this healthy living with my boyfriend and to be able to save his life too, that's amazing.
It's just like a 180 in attitude, period.
That's all we ever want to do is save and help our families, and to be able to really do that is truly amazing.
The enthusiasm I have about life nowadays is a lot.
When a person finds out that they have cancer, the message is very clear. Fight. You're worth fighting for, and you must fight this now or you're going to die. I pray and hope that someday we live in a world that when someone finds out that they have a diabetes diagnosis, that the message is not one of shame, that the message is one of fight, because you're worth fighting for. And this potentially fatal disease does not have to kill you, and it does not have to compromise one more minute of your life. You're worth it, you're worth better, you're worth fighting for.
100 years ago, everybody smoked. That's changed.
That's a thing that's been so stigmatized now in a good way, because it's objectively bad for everyone. I am so proud of humanity. We no longer smoke. Like, that's not the rule. It was doctor approved to smoke, and we figured out that that was BS, and we did something about it, and customs and how we view the world changed rapidly. People were dying, and we fixed it. And that is no different than what we need to do today.
And I'm about to bring a new life into this world. And I don't believe the world is bad. Avia Gabrielle, my daughter, is going to come into a world of high quality, of the highest quality. And I want to make it higher quality for her. So what are we doing here? What we're doing here is to prove and trigger a transformation at a tipping point in the world to say, we have the opportunity to experience quality unlike any species or generation ever has. Let's choose quality.
When they open that window, you get to see a baby girl, Angela. Oh, sweet, she's so pretty. She's got lots of brown hair. Hey, sweetheart. Oh. She's so cute.
So many people have not, myself included, opened the gifts they have been given. Because I have never in my life met a person who, if you can really go deep with them, there's not something about them that is brilliant or beautiful or shining in some way. You can choose the quality that is intrinsically within you. You can choose to accept that you are of the highest quality. And I want nothing more than to help other people give themselves permission to make that same choice.
You can do this. It's not out of your reach. And you know what? It's not just that it's not out of your reach. You're going to have fun doing it. You're going to be eating better than you've ever done before. You're going to feel a lot more energy. It's actually going to be a good journey.
I mean, I can't believe it. And I threw my scale away, and I really, really did. So I have really no idea what I weigh.
It's made a whole new person out of me, almost. I mean, the basics are still there. I'm still Jean, and I still feel the same way about things. But I have a much better attitude, and I have much more energy. And it's just made all the difference. I look better. I feel better because I look better. And I feel better because I'm healthier.
Almost everyone I've spoken with says that they can't go back once they've unlocked this information. Why? Because learning how to lower your set point, learning how to prevent and reverse diabetes, and learning how to see yourself, food, fitness, and life through a high-quality, sane lens is like learning to read. And once you learn it, the world never looks the same again.
You know, in my life, I have lost like 50 pounds or more 3 times. And this is the first time in my life that I'm confident I will keep it off. And that's because when I was younger, the science was low-fat eating and calorie counting and a bunch of different exercise. And I always had a goal weight in mind, and I would just work really hard holding on with my, teeth and nails to make it to that date. And this experience has been totally different.
Because once you get it, so much confusion is instantly replaced with clarity. You will never return to the starvation, shame, and stress that led directly to diabetes.
I have my inner demons, and you know, I hadn't faced them, and I couldn't see how beautiful my life was. I had the same life when I was miserable and when I was happy. I was just able to see it when I was happy. What changed was what I was eating. I gave my body the fuel, I gave my brain the fuel, and I was able to see and appreciate the beauty in my life that was already there.
And with this piece, you can take care of the things in your life that actually matter. That is the essence of nutritional serenity.
I was having definite mental problems. I was definitely overweight, and I was scared to death that I was going into Alzheimer's because that's what my mother died of. And the further you go with this, the better you do get at handling it.
I was near death in a death mode from 2006 to 2011. I went to a total of 15 cardiologists and electrophysiologists. One drug after the next, some of the most terrible drugs in the world, and they're not solving the problem. And this is going on for years, and I don't have any energy. When I was really at my lowest, 10,000 events of ventricular tachycardia, as recorded on my internal defibrillator. Today, 10 years later, I'm at 0.
I hope that you have concretely proven to yourself that you haven't failed. You aren't broken.
What's different about this time versus last is the types of foods I'm eating are different. They're healthier. My cravings have gone away, which that feels amazing. Food tastes better. I don't crave those foods anymore. And when I eat a handful of grapes, it tastes like candy.
For the first time in my life, I feel truly free.
I am an unlimited being.
You can heal permanently.
You deserve 100% of what life has to offer.
I am beautifully alive.
I feel fully alive.
Now is my time.
I am free from fear.
I am not broken.
Living your best life isn't selfish.
I am worth it.
I am worth it.
It's all worth it.
Now is your time.
You are worth it.
You are worth it.
You are worth it.
You deserve better.
Now is your time.
You can do it.
I told someone one time, the way I see my journey is I have a lot of swampland, and I'm planting lavender because I love lavender. And so it's gonna take a little time for the lavender to take root and hold into the swampy land. But before long, I'm gonna have fields of lavender, and the swampland's gonna get it's just gonna go away.
5 years from now, I think my mom's gonna feel super proud of herself. She's gonna feel great inside her new body. We're there for the support and the guidance to show her that she'll get to what she wants, and she just can't give up on it. I'm proud of you, Mom.
I feel called to help people to understand that diabetes is a tragic, catastrophic disease. Because once we understand that it is a tragic, catastrophic, preventable and treatable disease, the people who suffer from it will see and will have hope that they are not the problem. They are not bad. They are not shameful. They have a disease, and a treatable disease. And they live in a world that wants to help them treat that disease.